it's Jen. This is another episode of Reframing Me, and I'm your host, Dr. Jennifer Brubaker. So today was supposed to be a Jenna Zen episode, but then it kind of changed a little bit more into reframing the conversation. So we kind of have a bit more of a hybrid. Learning to stand in somebody else's shoes, to see through their eyes, that's how peace begins. Empathy is a quality of character that can change the world. So today is the day before Election Day here in the US. Election Day Eve, I guess we can call it, but that makes it really seem a lot more fun and a lot more exciting than it actually is, right? I just got back from a walk. I just needed a little bit of a break. I needed some fresh air, just a half hour to disconnect from the preoccupation that I have been experiencing with tomorrow and with this upcoming week, and just with what the future holds in general. Because y'all, I have been in it. Your girl has been hustling. I'm out here trying to help the world to wrap their collective head around this upcoming election, and I am exhausted. Mentally and physically and emotionally, I am drained. And of course, I am being dramatic and exaggerating a bit. Maybe the whole world isn't hanging on my every word as gospel, but I have been getting around much more than usual, locally and nationally, and also Canadian news and London news. Reframing the conversation has made it to Yahoo and the AP again today. The world is quite captivated by this election right now. And to be completely honest, I'm feeling it all. I'm nervous, I'm scared, I'm quite anxious as we head into tomorrow and the upcoming days. And I know that many of you are feeling it too. You want to know how many? Well, according to an AP poll, over 70% of you, so 7 out of every 10 of us, are feeling election anxiety. And if you are one of that 70%, hello, it's me, Jen. I too am here, and it is great to see you here, even under these circumstances. And if you happen to be one of the less than 30%, I love that for you. I do. I don't know if we could read more into why you aren't feeling the anxiety that we are, or maybe you're just one of God's favorite, or maybe you're highly medicated. Who knows? But I love that for you. I know I did an interview the other day with a media outlet about election anxiety. And when the producer reached out to me, I'm totally like, hi, hello, election anxiety. Yep, that is me. Because like I said, I am feeling it. The journalist told me that she really had this idea and she wanted to do this piece because everyone she knows is feeling it and they all think that they're crazy and they all feel like they're alone. But she didn't think that they were. So essentially, she needed some corroboration from an expert. So I did the interview. Her piece came out great. I shared it on my socials, and that's when a woman messaged me. She said, "Oh goodness, there are so many other things in everyday life to have anxiety over." Exclamation point, eye roll emoji. Ooh, eye roll emoji, really? Now, she's somebody that I know, like in real life, and I want to give her the benefit of the doubt that she wasn't being as rude as I was reading it, but I'm struggling. So I asked her what she meant by that, but it's been crickets. So I am filling in the blanks myself. The eye roll emoji is really what I'm going with. One doesn't typically use an eye roll emoji kindly. So yes, I'm sure I need to develop a thicker skin. Absolutely. But this wasn't some internet troll. She's someone I actually know and I actually like. And I thought she liked me. I thought she liked the show. And it upset me. I'm not going to lie. It bothered me more than it should have. I know on here I would tell you to let it go. It's a her thing, not a you thing. It says more about her than it does about me. It doesn't matter what she thinks. Let her. yada, yada, yada. But I didn't do any of that. I totally let her negativity get to me, just like I'm totally letting this anxiety hit me. And it's okay if you are too. I'd love to come here and say there's a magic secret to this anxiety not getting to you, but the truth is it doesn't exist. We're living in a very stressful time. This is a monumental election with the potential for significant fallout and the certainty of some change to a lot of change. Every bit of that is anxiety provoking. So really, the fact that it's only like 70% of us feeling the anxiety is probably quite low. Yes, she was right. There are so very, very many things in this world and in our lives to have anxiety over. Absolutely, 100%. But you know what is one of them? The election. And election anxiety is completely real and normal and something that more than 70% of Americans are feeling the day before the election. And there is nothing wrong or odd with feeling it. And it doesn't mean you don't recognize that there are other things to be anxious about too. And many of you, if you are like me, well, you are lucky enough to feel all of those too. We're multitasking anxiety, and it is quite a talent. But that message, it got to me because there are millions of people whose lives may be forever changed by the outcome of tomorrow's election, either directly or indirectly. Not to mention that of course, I was proud of that interview. I'm proud of these journalists. I'm proud of my years of study, and I'm proud of the knowledge that I have. And it also felt belittling of all of that. I was also bothered by the way that that message seemed to dismiss people's emotions and their experiences. Like the tendency I feel I often see for someone to feel that they are maybe better than someone else simply because they don't care to understand or to relate to them. That empathy, it truly lacked empathy. And as people who are trying to raise children with empathy, that clear lack of it really hits me hard. Anyway, the negativity from that encounter combined with the general feelings that I'm having anxiety and worry and nervousness and uncertainty and restlessness and just plain ickiness. It's okay for us to feel those things. And it's okay for us to acknowledge that, yeah, we are feeling those things. Ultimately, our true strength lies in our ability to acknowledge them and to still rise above them. There's nothing wrong or abnormal or dramatic about feeling anxious about tomorrow or about anything. It's a natural occurrence designed to protect us from uncertain circumstances. It's our fight or flight. But we can't forget, and I'm speaking to myself here just as much as, if not more, than I'm speaking to you. We cannot forget that we have the power to control our thoughts. We have the choice to acknowledge these thoughts, and we have the power to rise above them. In fact, that's where our true strength comes from. And because we are feeling it, and it's okay, we're feeling it. It's normal that we're feeling it, and we're acknowledging that we're feeling it. That's what our conversation is going to be about today. Election anxiety. Because if 70% of Americans are feeling it, so are many of you. And I've already done an interview with Canada last week, and I have the UK later. So those of y'all outside of the US, I know you care what we're feeling. And it's not like y'all don't have your own anxiety about this election or about your own elections. So I wanted to have a conversation about the very real and very valid election anxiety, what it is, why we feel it, what we can do to help, even as we feel like we're stuck in this purgatory right now, right? Election anxiety is the intense stress or nervousness that people feel surrounding elections. But it's obviously particularly present in the periods leading up to a major election like this one. It's characterized by a sense of worry about the future or frustration with the political climate, and often a constant preoccupation with political news and any possible developments. Now, just like everything else, we're not all feeling it the same. So this anxiety can vary in intensity. So anywhere from just a mild sense of unease to an overwhelming fear. And it can even, as I'm sure many of you are experiencing, it can even influence a person's emotional and physical well-being, their relationships, and even their job performance. And I know I can envision that woman's eyes totally rolling because who would possibly let an election impact their relationships or their work? Hello, we would, right? And we're totally normal. While election anxiety itself isn't new, the rise of constant real time access to news and information has totally amplified it. We have evolved from a once a day news cycle to that 24 hours, 7 days a week, constant barrage of update after update after update. And then add in all of the emails and the texts and the TV ads and the signs and the social media. And oh my God, make it stop, right? It has created a heightened sense of urgency and given us real time proximity to every political development. So it makes it easier for us to feel closely affected by every new headline or every breaking news alert. And lest we ignore that a variety of major political events and changes in leadership and increasingly polarized elections have all occurred over the past few decades and have intensified this phenomenon. Social media, in particular, has increased our exposure to a very wide range of political opinions, both from people we know and from strangers. And so this has created that often unavoidable and emotionally charged environment. And it has definitely increased this election cycle because, we all saw after 2020 that it didn't end. Like in the past, after the election, we had election day and we moved on with the new normal, whatever it was. But in 2020, we lived through the events that followed and the next 4 years, and we saw the hatred grow. We saw the uncivil discourse grow, the violence, the fear. We've seen relationships fall apart. And so there's not that same light at the end of the election day tunnel for us this time because we fear that it can be like that again. There is no denying 2020 was rough. I mean, really, since 2016, it's been pretty bad. But since 2020, we've said the great American trauma. Having a trauma response brought on by this election, it's a real thing. And if we dismiss it, we are doing ourselves a disservice. We need to acknowledge it. We need to take care of ourselves, and we need to have empathy for those around us. Now, election anxiety can affect people of all political backgrounds and all ages, as evidenced by 70% of us feeling this way. Obviously, those with a personal stake in specific policies, such as like healthcare, education, immigration, economic reform, social issues, which really, I guess that covers most of us, right? Or at least probably 70%. But those who have a personal stake may feel this anxiety much more intensely because they're seeing a potential direct impact on their personal lives or on their communities. And this anxiety is also really felt by people who are especially sensitive to any kind of political or social justice issues, like where the outcomes might mean substantial shifts in their rights or in their protections or in the social conditions. And then those of us who are prone to just general anxiety, it is a double whammy. And we may find that this election season exasperates our existing stressors, those compounding effects. So, what is it specifically about elections that are so anxiety inducing? Well, there are 4 factors in particular. Okay, so first, the fear of change or loss. Elections, and especially in highly polarized climates, but elections bring the potential for significant changes in policy and in direction. And many people worry about how these changes might affect their jobs, their healthcare, their social programs, or even their safety and security. So to not understand how people could feel anxiety over the prospect of their lives changing or of losing aspects of their lives or the quality of their lives that they currently enjoy, it's a bit narrow-minded. To be able to stand in someone else's shoes, to see through their eyes, that's how peace begins. Second, the uncertainty. In general, when we're talking about any type of anxiety, one of the core causes is uncertainty. We don't like uncertainty. It makes us feel uncomfortable. We like to know. We like to predict. We like to know what to expect. And elections, they are not that. Elections are essentially unpredictable events. And even with polling or trending, the final outcome remains unknown until the very end, whenever that may be. This not knowing, it can be extremely stressful. People are wondering how their lives or the lives of those that they care about might change. Third, for many people, there's a feeling of pressure or of personal responsibility. Civic duty is something that is put on us from the time we are children and from all political vantage points. Doing our civic duty is truly a bipartisan demand. And so people often feel a strong sense of duty to both participate in and to influence election outcomes. And this can add pressure and weight to the decision-making process and to our feelings of accountability. And when you feel the weight of this election, when you know the stakes and when you feel like you can and you should be doing something, there's a pressure to live up to this responsibility, especially in a race like this one, where each vote feels particularly important. And fourth, the fear of divisiveness and conflict. This is exactly what we've been talking about in reframing the conversation. The polarization and the high emotional stakes that have happened in our recent elections have led to increased tensions within our families and in our workplaces and in our communities. So many people feel like they've lost loved ones in this atmosphere of hatred and hostility and judgment. And many can't help but see people they love through a lens that they don't love. The fear of conflict with loved ones or with colleagues can make this election feel much more personally threatening. And so this, of course, contributes to a heightened level of stress. The good thing is that unlike a more general anxiety may persist due to ongoing life stressors or personal challenges, but election anxiety is primarily episodic. It intensifies around election cycles and then it lessens afterwards. However, and this goes back to our 2020 PTSD, we know it doesn't always go back. And so for some, the heightened sense of worry can linger well after the election results are finalized, especially if they're dissatisfied with the outcome. Election anxiety is also unique because it's not tied to just individual circumstances, but to more large scale national and even global events that feel, and really they feel this way because they are, but they feel outside of a person's control. And so we feel a loss of agency, and it can contribute to those feelings of helplessness. And that can be particularly stressful and hard for us to manage. And it can take its toll on our mental health and on our physical health. The chronic stress of this long election season can lead to overall anxiety and depression and irritability, maybe sleep disruption, and even physical symptoms like headaches or muscle tension. And it can have behavioral impacts. People may withdraw from social connections, may avoid news entirely, or may fall into doom scrolling, which then, of course, can reinforce those feelings of hopelessness. You might even find yourself being snappy or impatient or maybe even taking out your frustration somewhere else or on someone else. I mean, I'm not saying that was why I was very short with someone the other day, someone who I will say probably deserved it. But still, just because she deserved it doesn't mean that the version of me who I like to think I am most of the time isn't a bigger and better person than the way that maybe I behaved. But still, the fact that I was very short with someone immediately following the message that I received means two things. One, I need to get a thicker skin. And two, I am suffering from misplaced behavior due to my election anxiety. And this election anxiety may be impacting your productivity or your focus. It can make it hard to concentrate on work or on your daily responsibilities because we are so distracted by these bigger concerns about election news. Or maybe you're feeling the relationship strains that we have been talking about for a couple of weeks now. The tension or conflict with your families or friends or coworkers. You may experience tension or conflict because of the differing political views or even the anticipation of those views leading to arguments or leading to strained interactions, especially as the holidays are coming. Maybe you're seeing them through that different lens these days, or maybe you're still reeling 4 days later by the unempathetic message that dismissed both your work and your anxiety. So, what do? How can we cope? Well, I will start with, I'm sorry, but I do not have a magic answer because there isn't one. This election is a really big deal. A lot of lives have the possibility of being impacted. And to be honest, I truly don't understand how anyone could not think about that and feel empathy. But I can give you some temporary solace at least. The clearest is probably to limit your media consumption. Maybe choose specific times to check the news instead of just staying plugged in all day. Curate sources that you trust and avoid overexposure to any anxiety-inducing content. Avoid social media, maybe get your news more actively than just sitting back and passively receiving it, along with all of the other ickiness that may come along with it in social media. I admit, echo chamber or not, the snooze feature on Facebook, mwah, chef's kiss. Relatedly, stay connected, but with some boundaries. Talk to your family or your friends about your election concerns if it feels supportive. But set boundaries if the discussions start to become unproductive or start to feel overwhelming to you. Focus on what you can control. Shift your attention to actionable steps, like obviously voting, or maybe volunteering, or recording a podcast about election anxiety. Things that can help you feel more empowered. Self-care. Self-care is always the answer. My kids are off from school tomorrow, so Ever and I are going to get pedicures. And I think maybe we might get fancy and go above the basic pedicure. Maybe the hot stone. Maybe get an extra scrub, a longer foot massage. Maybe we'll do all three. But engage in activities that promote relaxation and promote joy. So any type of self-care like exercise or your hobbies or spending time outside. It's fall. It's beautiful out. At least here it is. Wish you were here. I know I went for that nice little walk today because I needed that break. I needed the fresh air and it worked wonders. Remember, disconnecting from election discussions and information, even temporarily, can be very restorative. And just like all anxiety, practice mindfulness. So those grounding techniques like breath work or meditation. At the most basic level, just focus on your breath. Specifically, focus on one part of your body where you can directly feel the inhale and the exhale. So like put your hands on your chest or on your belly and allow yourself to feel the expansion and the contraction as you inhale and exhale. Or focusing on your nostrils and feeling the air as it comes in and as it goes out. And slow down the breath. Anytime you have a longer exhale than your inhale, it calms the body and the mind. So inhaling for a count of 4 and exhaling for a count of 6. Inhaling for a count of 4 and exhaling for a count of 6. If you aren't using these strategies already, you will be amazed at how dramatically controlling your breath can help you to manage stress and anxiety in the moment. Most importantly, keep in mind, now and in the days to come, whatever the outcome may be, people are emotionally connected to this election. The strong opinions that people hold are because of reasons and outcomes that are very real and very important. And even if they don't impact you, it doesn't mean that it isn't impacting them. And having empathy for others is key. Because as former President Barack Obama said, learning to stand in somebody else's shoes, to see through their eyes, that's how peace begins. Empathy is a quality of character that can change the world. Thank you so much for listening today and always. Until next time, be well and communicate.